The first fine showed up on my doorstep like a warning shot. Violation. House color does not comply with HOA standards. Fine. $500 per week until corrected. I stared at the notice, blood boiling. My house had been this shade of blue for years, but suddenly it was a problem? Not a chance. And then came Karen Whitmore, HOA president, self-appointed queen of Maplewood Estates, and a woman who believed she ruled this neighborhood like a monarch. With her clipboard of doom and a smug little smile, she strutted up to my house like she'd already won. You have 30 days to repaint. Beige, taupe, or gray. Those are your only options. Her voice was sweet as poison, but the message was clear. Obey or pay. But when I first moved into Maplewood Estates, I thought I had found the perfect home. It was exactly what I had wanted. A cozy single-story house with a spacious backyard, a sturdy front porch, and most importantly, freedom. The neighborhood was quiet. The neighbors mostly kept to themselves. And the HOA? Well, they had some basic guidelines, but nothing that had ever seemed too restrictive. Or so I thought. That illusion shattered the day I met Karen Whitmore. Karen wasn't just any HOA president. She was the self-proclaimed queen of the neighborhood. With her meticulously styled blonde bob, oversized designer sunglasses, and a clipboard that seemed permanently attached to her hand, she treated Maplewood Estates like her personal kingdom. She didn't just enforce the rules. She created them, bending them to suit whatever vision she had for the perfect community. And under her rule, things had taken a dark turn. It started with little things. One neighbor got a notice about the color of their garden gnome being too distracting. Another was fined for having their trash cans out 5 minutes past collection time. And now, apparently, I was her next target. I was mowing my lawn when I saw her approaching, marching up my driveway with the self-importance of a medieval tax collector. That smug, practiced smile was already plastered across her face. "Mr. Johnson," she cooed, tilting her head slightly. "I couldn't help but notice your house is an unfortunate shade of blue." I shut off the mower, already knowing this wasn't going to be a pleasant conversation. "Yeah? What about it?" She sighed dramatically, as if my existence was exhausting for her. "It clashes with the aesthetic of the neighborhood. HOA regulations now require all homes to be in neutral, earth-toned colors, beige, taupe, maybe a nice muted gray." I raised an eyebrow. "Since when?" She smirked, flipping through the stack of papers on her clipboard. "Since last month. The HOA board voted to amend the guidelines, and now you have 30 days to comply. Otherwise, you'll be fined $500 per week." I blinked. $500 per week? "You can't just change the rules and force people to repaint their houses," I said, my irritation rising. "Oh, but we can," she replied sweetly, her tone dripping with condescension. "It's all perfectly legal, and the board unanimously agreed. It's for the good of the community." With that, she turned on her heel and strode away, her clipboard clutched to her chest like a royal decree. That night, I went through every single HOA document I had. And there it was, a tiny, almost invisible clause buried deep in the fine print. It granted the board the power to revise aesthetic standards at their discretion. They had slipped in this rule without notice, without a vote from homeowners, without even the decency to tell me before I bought the house. They thought they could bully me into submission? They had no idea who they were dealing with. For the next few days, I couldn't shake the feeling of rage and defiance. Repainting my house beige wasn't just about the cost. It was about principle. Giving in to Karen's tyrannical rule meant admitting she could dictate what I could and couldn't do with my own property. And I wasn't about to let that happen. I needed a way to fight back. Not just to resist, but to send a message. And then, As I scrolled through paint options online, I found it. The perfect act of rebellion. If Karen wanted beige, I'd give her the exact opposite. I was going neon pink. Not just any pink. A blinding, electrifying, scorching shade that made your retinas scream for mercy. The kind of pink you'd see on a Las Vegas billboard or a flamingo-themed 80s workout suit. If she thought my blue house clashed with the neighborhood aesthetic, this would make her head explode. The transformation. The process took 2 full days. I hired a local painter, who, after laughing for a solid 5 minutes when I showed him the color, was more than happy to help. By the time we were done, my house looked like it had been dipped in a vat of liquid bubblegum. The paint reflected so much sunlight that I had to wear sunglasses just to admire my own work. And let me tell you, the neighborhood reaction was instant. People stopped mid-walk, eyes widening in horror and amazement. Some pulled out their phones and snapped pictures, whispering among themselves. Kids pointed and giggled. Even my next-door neighbor, old Mr. Henderson, who hadn't spoken to me in months, walked over, took one long look at my house, and let out a deep belly laugh before giving me a nod of approval. Then, there was Karen. I wasn't outside when she first saw it, but I heard about it later from a neighbor. Apparently, she had been driving past in her pristine white Lexus when she slammed on the brakes so hard she nearly caused a fender bender. The sight of my house had her so rattled that she sat there for a full 30 seconds, mouth open, before peeling off down the street like she was escaping a crime scene. The next morning, the retaliation came. A bright red violation notice was taped to my front door. HOA emergency meeting. Mandatory attendance. Oh, this was going to be fun. The showdown. That evening, I walked into the community center like a man ready for battle. The room was packed. Karen sat at the head of the HOA table, flanked by her loyal minions, clutching a printed-out photo of my house as if it physically hurt her to look at it. She didn't waste time. "This," she hissed, holding up the photo like it was evidence in a murder trial, "is a direct violation of community standards." I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, letting a slow smirk creep onto my face. "No, Karen, it's not." She blinked. "Excuse me?" "The new rule says houses must be an earth tone," I said casually. "Well, pink exists in nature. Ever heard of sunsets, flowers, flamingos?" Her eye twitched. "That's ridiculous," she snapped. "It's subjective," I shrugged. "If you wanted to ban bright colors, you should have been more specific." A wave of murmurs rippled through the crowd. I caught a few nods of agreement from other homeowners. Even some of her own board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Karen's face turned redder than the violation notice. "We will not allow this," she snapped, her voice rising in frustration. "The board is issuing a $1,000 fine, effective immediately." I let out a mock gasp. "Wow, a whole grand?" I grinned. "Yeah, I'm not paying it." Karen's nostrils flared. "Then we will take legal action." I leaned forward, locking eyes with her. "Go ahead," I said, voice calm. "Let's see how well that holds up in court." For the first time, uncertainty flashed across her face. The room had fallen completely silent. Everyone was watching. Karen huffed, gripping her gavel like she wanted to throw it at me. Instead, she slammed it down. "Meeting adjourned," she barked before storming out. But I knew one thing for sure. This war was just getting started. Karen wasn't done with me. Oh no, she was just getting started. The week after the HOA meeting, I woke up to find a bright red violation notice taped to my front door. I barely had to read it to know who was behind it. "Grass exceeds HOA approved length, $200 fine." I stared at my yard in disbelief. My lawn was freshly cut, neatly edged, and better maintained than half the houses on the street. But Karen didn't stop there. A second notice arrived the next day. Trash cans left out past collection time, $150 fine. Seriously? My security camera footage showed I'd brought my bins in within 30 minutes of pickup. The following morning, another fine. Vehicle parked in driveway, $250 fine. I rubbed my temples. My own driveway. That's when I realized what was happening. This wasn't about rules. This was Karen trying to break me. She wanted to bury me in fines, make me miserable until I caved and repainted my house beige. But here's the thing about me. I don't cave. Turning the tables. I started documenting everything. I installed security cameras, positioning them to capture every single detail. When I mowed my lawn, when I brought my trash in, when I parked my truck. If Karen wanted to play dirty, I was about to outplay her. Then I started paying attention to other houses. That's when I noticed something interesting. Selective enforcement. My lawn, apparently too long, but 2 houses down, grass practically a jungle. No fines. Trash cans left out? Mine got a fine. But my next-door neighbors? Sat there for days. No violation. My truck? An eyesore. But the rusty van on the corner that hadn't moved in weeks? Completely ignored. And the real kicker? Karen's own house had a backyard fence that wasn't HOA approved. Oh, the hypocrisy. The jackpot. One evening, a neighbor, let's call him Dave, knocked on my door. He looked around like he was about to tell me a state secret. "Listen," he muttered. "I've had enough of her crap. You should know. Karen's been stealing HOA funds." I leaned in. "Explain." According to Dave, Karen had been using HOA money for personal expenses, spa days, expensive dinners, even a private vacation to Hawaii. Worse? She had funneled thousands into a private account, claiming it was for neighborhood improvements. I spent the next few nights digging. HOA financial records weren't exactly public, but a few emails, leaked receipts, and old board meeting notes painted a clear picture. Karen was stealing from the community. I had her. Dropping the bomb. I compiled everything, screenshots, photos, bank statements, emails, cold, hard proof. Then I did the one thing Karen never expected. I sent it to every homeowner in the neighborhood, and for good measure, the local news. The next HOA meeting was absolute chaos. The room was packed. People were furious. Neighbors who had once ignored the HOA nonsense were suddenly demanding answers. Karen sat at the front, gripping her clipboard like a lifeline, visibly sweating. "This is a misunderstanding," she stammered. But the receipts didn't lie. People started shouting. "Where's our money, Karen? How do you explain the Hawaii trip? Why is your house getting upgrades while we get fined for stupid things?" The HOA board, realizing they had no way to save her, did the only thing they could. They voted unanimously to remove Karen as president. And the best part? Every single fine she had issued against me? Canceled. And as a final twist of poetic justice, the new HOA board forced her to repaint her house beige. Oh, the irony. Karen was gone. Just like that, her iron grip on the neighborhood was broken. The difference was immediate. No more petty fines for nonsense violations. No more HOA spies patrolling like mall cops, waiting to pounce on some imaginary offense. No more last-minute rule changes designed to squeeze homeowners dry. The new HOA leadership was actually reasonable. They listened to people. They took concerns seriously. And most importantly, they rewrote the color regulations. No more restrictions. No more only neutral tones. Homeowners were free to paint their houses however they pleased. All because of me. All because I refused to back down. And my neon pink house? I left it exactly as it was. Not because I was too lazy to repaint it. Not because I wanted to keep annoying the HOA, no, I left it as a statement. Every time I stepped outside, I saw more than just a house. I saw a monument to defiance, a flaming pink middle finger to HOA tyranny, a reminder that no one gets to bully me into submission. And the best part? Other homeowners started following my lead. One by one, houses in the neighborhood began to change. A bright yellow house popped up down the street. A deep ocean blue one replaced a dull beige monstrosity. Someone even went for a deep royal purple, just because they could. The neighborhood was finally alive again. And as I stood on my porch, watching my neon pink house glow under the setting sun, I took a deep breath and smiled. Every drop of paint, every battle, every second of Karen's fury, it had all been worth it.